The steam rising from the 12-hour reduced demi-glace suddenly felt suffocating as Graham leaned against the prep counter, arms crossed over his expensive button-down. His mouth twitched into what some might mistake for a smile. "Explain to me why the Chandler wedding party complained about lukewarm entrees," he said, tapping his watch. 200 guests, $30,000, and I'm getting texts about cold food. I wiped my hands on my apron. The venue changed the service time without telling us. We adjusted and still delivered everything within 10 minutes of... Stop. Graham held up one manicured hand. The client isn't happy, which means I'm not happy. My sous chef Danny shifted uncomfortably beside me, avoiding eye contact. 3 years I'd spent elevating this once struggling catering company into the most sought-after service in the metropolitan area. 3 years of 60-hour weeks, of creating menu concepts that won regional awards, of personally handling VIP clients who now booked 9 months in advance. "Look, this is uncomfortable," Graham continued, suddenly softer. "But we need to talk about your performance." "My performance?" The knife I'd been using to julienne vegetables stilled in my hand. "The truth is, you've been slipping. The Bentley corporate lunch last month, the missing vegetarian options, the Willow Museum gala, those undercooked shrimp that made someone ill." My mouth dropped open. "That wasn't. You've been distracted, overwhelmed. Maybe this level of responsibility isn't suited to you anymore." He slid a cream-colored envelope across the steel countertop, interrupting the careful mise en place I'd spent 2 hours arranging. It sat between us like a grenade. 3-month severance. We'll need you to clear out today. The kitchen around me blurred. Through the haze, I spotted Danny's wide eyes and something else. A small, unmistakable smile pulling at the corner of her mouth. Behind Graham stood Tessa, my once trusted assistant, already wearing my personal chef coat, the one with my name embroidered above the heart. She'd been in my home for dinner just last Sunday, asking detailed questions about my signature dishes, my supplier relationships. I'd shared everything. "We need a smooth transition," Graham continued. "Tessa will be taking over your position effective immediately. She's been shadowing your work for weeks in preparation." The betrayal hit like ice water. Weeks? They'd planned this for weeks? "The quarterly finance review is next week," I said, my voice hollow. "And the profit-sharing agreement? That's why this timing works well for everyone," Graham replied smoothly. "A clean break before the new quarter. 1 week. They were firing me 1 week before I would have received my percentage of the profits I'd helped create. 1 week before the bonus structure I'd negotiated during my last review would have matured." The realization must have shown on my face because Graham's expression hardened. "Security will escort you out. For everyone's comfort." I felt the eyes of every kitchen staff member burning into my back as a burly man in an ill-fitting suit appeared at my elbow. With mechanical movements, I untied my apron, the one I'd specially ordered with extra pockets for my tasting spoons and notebook, and placed it on the counter. "My recipes," I said. "My personal notes. Company property," Graham replied. "Created on company time." The security guard gripped my elbow with unnecessary force as I was marched past stations where I'd trained every single person. Past the kitchen where I'd created the lobster roulade that made the food critic from the city paper weep. Past the wall where my Chef of the Year certificate had already been removed. Through the dining room window, I caught sight of Tessa directing my team, already wearing my authority like a borrowed designer dress. Our eyes met through the glass. She looked away first. Outside, the guard released me with a small shove toward the parking lot. "Your personal belongings will be shipped," he muttered, almost apologetically. I stood alone in the spring sunshine, surrounded by the delivery trucks bringing ingredients for the weekend's events. Events I had planned, menus I had created, clients I had cultivated. The envelope crumpled in my fist, its contents already feeling insufficient for the life they had just upended. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "How's your day going, sweetie? You working late again tonight?" I couldn't answer. Instead, I sat in my car for 47 minutes, watching the kitchen door, waiting for someone, anyone, to come out and say this was all a mistake. No one came. If this story hits close to home for you, if you've ever been blindsided professionally or personally, take a second to like and subscribe. I share these real-life dramas because we all need to know we're not alone when life pulls the rug out from under us. Comment below if you've ever experienced workplace betrayal and how you handled it. Now, let's get back to what happened next. My name is Linnea Parker. At least, that's what my friends call me. In professional kitchens, I was simply chef for most of my career, a title I'd earned through burns, cuts, 16-hour shifts, and culinary school debt I'm still paying off at 34. The week after my dismissal passed in a blur of numbness and disbelief. I applied to 7 restaurants, but word spreads quickly in the culinary world. Creative differences was the euphemism Graham's company used when called for references, spoken with just enough hesitation to raise alarm bells. By week 3, my savings were dwindling. I started selling kitchen equipment I'd collected over the years, the Japanese knives I'd saved for months to buy, the copper pans inherited from my grandmother. Each sale felt like parting with a piece of my identity. Former clients reached out with confusion. "We specifically requested you for our anniversary dinner," one couple wrote. "They said you left for personal reasons. Is everything okay?" I didn't know how to respond. How could I explain I'd been discarded like spoiled produce, that the company had deemed me rotten when I was still perfectly good? Then came the rumors. A former colleague texted, "Heard you were drinking on the job." Another, "Someone said food costs rose 20% under your management." All lies, all carefully crafted to justify my removal. 6 weeks after my dismissal, I was considering a job at a grocery store deli counter when my phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered, voice thick with interrupted sleep, heavy breathing, then a whisper. "Is this Linnea, the former head chef at Taste Creators?" I sat up. "Who's asking?" "It's Tessa, my replacement, my betrayer." I nearly hung up, but something in her voice, a tremor, a vulnerability, stopped me. "They're going to fire me tomorrow," she said, words tumbling out between quiet sobs, "just like they did to you." "Performance issues?" I guessed, bitterness coating my tongue. "Yes, but it's impossible," she insisted. "They've been sabotaging me. Orders get changed after I submit them. Delivery times get mixed up. Someone deleted all my digital recipe files from the system." My grip tightened on the phone. "That's terrible, Tessa," I said flatly. "Really breaks my heart for you." "Please," she begged. "I know I don't deserve your help, but there's more you need to know." "I'm listening." "They do this every quarter. I overheard Graham and the finance director at happy hour. They fire senior staff right before bonus periods to avoid payouts. There's a whole system. They've done this to 5 chefs before you." The revelation should have been shocking, but instead, it settled over me with disturbing clarity. Of course, it hadn't been personal. It was calculated. "That's not all," Tessa continued, her voice dropping even lower. "They're cutting corners everywhere, using expired ingredients, mislabeling allergens. I found invoices showing they bill clients for premium ingredients but use cheap substitutes." My mind flashed to the undercooked shrimp incident Graham had mentioned, the one where a guest got sick. I'd been bewildered because I'd personally checked every temperature. Had they deliberately served bad food and blamed me? "Tomorrow, they're catering the governor's charity gala," Tessa whispered. "All those violations will be present. They're serving farmed salmon labeled as wild, caught to the health commissioner himself." After hanging up, I paced my small apartment until sunrise, rage building with each step, not just for myself, but for every chef before me who had been discarded, for the clients who had been cheated, for the diners potentially exposed to foodborne illness. By morning, something had crystallized within me, harder than diamond, sharper than my best knife. I picked up my phone and called Danny, my former sous chef. We hadn't spoken since my dismissal. "Linnea?" she answered, surprised. "I've been meaning to call you." "No time," I cut in. "I need to know if you've noticed anything strange with the inventory or invoices." A pause. "How did you know?" "Tessa called me. They're planning to fire her tomorrow." Danny exhaled. "I've been documenting everything. The substitutions, the mislabeling. I was going to call you when I had enough proof." "The governor's gala is tonight," I said. "We don't have much time." "What are you planning?" Danny asked, a note of worry in her voice. I stared at the chef's knife I'd kept, the only one I couldn't bear to sell, my reflection distorted in its polished surface. "Justice," I replied, "but I need your help." By noon, I'd assembled an unlikely alliance. Danny, the sous chef whose silence during my firing still stung, had arrived at my apartment with a thumb drive and apologetic eyes. "I thought speaking up would cost me my job," she admitted, placing the drive on my kitchen counter like an offering. "I didn't know they were planning to cycle through all of us." The drive contained photos of inventory sheets with dates crossed out and rewritten, screenshots of altered invoices, and a log of menu changes made after approval. Small pieces of a larger deception. My phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. "Graham moved up my performance review. It's happening at 5 today instead of tomorrow." He wants me fresh for the governor's gala tonight. They're accelerating the timeline, I told Danny. We need more evidence. I know someone who might help, Danny replied, hesitation in her voice. Marcel. Marcel had been the pastry chef before my arrival. His sudden departure had been explained away as pursuing other opportunities, but he'd never reappeared in any local restaurant. Now I understood why. When we arrived at his small bakery across town, the bell above the door announced us with a cheerful jingle that contrasted with Marcel's wary expression. You, he said, recognizing me instantly. The chef who replaced me. The chef who got replaced, I corrected. Just like you. His eyes narrowed, measuring the truth in my words. What do you want? To stop them from doing this to anyone else. 20 minutes and 2 espressos later, Marcel pulled out a leather-bound notebook from behind a row of specialty flowers. I kept records, he explained, flipping through pages of meticulous notes. Dates, times, altered orders. Graham claimed I'd overspent on ingredients, but I tracked every penny. They moved money around, made it look like my department was bleeding cash. He turned to a page marked with a red tab. This is the smoking gun. Email printouts where Graham discusses the quarterly talent refresh with accounting. They specifically target higher-paid staff before bonus periods. I skimmed the emails, my hands trembling. This is from 2 years ago. They've been doing this that long? Longer, Marcel confirmed. But no one's been able to prove it. We're all just disgruntled ex-employees with chips on our shoulders, right? The 3 of us huddled around my kitchen table, piecing together a fragmented history of deception. Marcel called 2 more former employees, a server named Jordan who'd been fired for mishandling client funds that had actually been skimmed by management, and a former event coordinator named Ash, who had documentation of venue complaints that had been hidden from me. By 4 o'clock, we had assembled enough evidence to show a pattern, but nothing definitively criminal that would trigger immediate action. We need something happening in real time, I said, frustrated. Something that can't be explained away. My phone buzzed again. Tessa, meeting in 30 minutes. What should I do? I typed quickly. Record everything if you can. We're working on a plan. Danny looked up from the stack of invoices she'd been studying. What about the governor's gala tonight? If they're serving mislabeled food to state officials, even if we report it, inspections take time to arrange, I countered. By then, the evidence would be eaten or discarded. Marcel was pacing, rolling a pastry pin between his palms absently. What if we had someone on the inside? Someone who could point inspectors to specific violations in real time. We all turned to my phone as it lit up with Tessa's reply. They just demoted me to prep cook for tonight, said my leadership isn't consistent enough for such an important event. Graham is taking over as head chef. I'm still expected to work the gala. I looked up at my 3 companions. We have our inside person. While Danny coached Tessa on what evidence to gather, I remembered something, or rather someone. Eliza Chang, a culinary school friend who now produced the Consumer Watchdog segment for the local news station. We'd lost touch over the years, but her investigative pieces on restaurant health violations had made her somewhat of a crusader in the food world. The call connected on the 3rd ring. Linnea Parker, she answered, surprise evident in her voice. It's been ages. I have a story for you, I said, skipping pleasantries. A catering company serving potentially dangerous food to the governor's charity gala tonight. Silence, then. That's a serious allegation. What evidence do you have? Doctored invoices, mislabeled ingredients, documentation of a pattern of firings to avoid paying bonuses, and a current employee who can confirm everything in real time tonight. This catering company, Eliza said carefully. Would it happen to be your former employer? Yes. Another pause. Which makes you a disgruntled ex-employee with a potential vendetta? I have 4 other former employees with me right now, all with similar stories and documentation. This isn't about revenge, Eliza. It's about public safety. I could almost hear her journalistic instincts warring with her skepticism. The gala starts at 7. I need to see your evidence by 5 if we're going to mobilize a team. The next hour passed in a frenzy of scanning documents, organizing digital files, and creating a timeline of abuses. I kept checking my phone, waiting for updates from Tessa. Nothing. At 4:55, as we prepared to meet Eliza, my phone finally buzzed. I'm fired, Tessa wrote. Graham caught me taking photos of the salmon packaging. Security escorted me out. My heart sank. Our inside person is gone, I told the others. Marcel slammed his pastry pin down. That's it then. We're back to being disgruntled ex-employees with no way to prove current violations. The room deflated. our momentum evaporating. I stared at the collection of evidence. So much proof of past wrongdoing, yet nothing that could stop tonight's deception. My phone buzzed again. Tessa, but they forgot something. I still have my staff access card, and I know exactly where they're storing the counterfeit ingredients. Hope flickered back to life. She can still get us in, I told the group. It's too risky, Danny argued. If she's caught trespassing after being fired, that's criminal. I'll go, I decided. I know the kitchen layout better than anyone. You're the most recognizable, Marcel countered. You were the face of the company for 3 years. Before we could resolve the debate, another text arrived from Tessa. The health inspector is already here. Pre-event walkthrough. Graham is handling it personally. That's our chance, I said. While Graham is distracted with the inspector, we can document everything and get out. Danny shook her head. The security guard who escorted you out that day, he knows your face. Mine too, added Marcel. A heavy silence fell over the room as we realized our plan was crumbling. Then Jordan, who had been quietly observing until now, spoke up. They don't know me, she said. I worked front of house, and it was years ago. I could go with Tessa. We all turned to look at her. Jordan's delicate features and quiet demeanor made her easy to overlook, but there was a determined set to her jaw. Are you sure? I asked. She nodded. I lost my apartment after they fired me. Had to move back with my parents at 29. I want them to face consequences. The plan came together quickly. Jordan would meet Tessa at the service entrance. Using Tessa's access card, they'd slip into the kitchen during the pre-event inspection. Their job, document the mislabeled ingredients, take photos of altered invoices, and get out undetected. Meanwhile, the rest of us would meet Eliza with our compiled evidence, preparing her for what Jordan and Tessa might find. As we gathered our materials, a notification popped up on my phone, a social media alert for Taste creators. They had just posted photos of the preparation for tonight's gala. In one image, Graham stood proudly beside a display of what was labeled as wild-caught Copper River salmon, his arm around the shoulder of the health commissioner. My stomach clenched. The deception was already underway. We arrived at the news station just before 5:30. Eliza met us in the lobby, professional skepticism evident in her stance. But as we laid out our evidence, Marcel's notebooks, Danny's photographs, the email printouts, her expression shifted from doubt to concern to outrage. This is systematic, she said, reviewing the pattern of firings. And if what you're saying about tonight's gala is true, we have 2 people inside right now confirming, I told her. Eliza picked up her phone. I'm calling my camera crew, and I know someone at the health department who won't wait for bureaucratic approval to act on this. For the first time in 6 weeks, I felt something other than helplessness and rage. I felt hope. Then my phone rang, Tessa's number. We're in trouble, she whispered, ambient kitchen noise nearly drowning her out. Security spotted Jordan. I'm hiding in the dry storage closet. Did you get evidence of the salmon? I asked urgently. Yes, photos of everything. The original packaging showing farm-raised, the fake labels they created for service. But Jordan has the phone with the pictures, and they're questioning her now. My momentary hope curdled into dread. If Jordan was caught, if the evidence was discovered and deleted, we'd be back where we started. Where's Graham? I asked. Still, with the health inspector in the dining room. They're doing the formal walkthrough before guests arrive. I covered the phone and relayed the situation to the others. The gala starts in 90 minutes, Eliza said, checking her watch. We need that evidence now if we're going to stop this. Danny suddenly straightened. I just remembered. The kitchen has a delivery entrance at the back, near the dumpsters. It's only used for morning shipments. No one watches it this late. Can you guide Tessa there? I asked. Danny nodded, taking my phone. As she gave detailed directions, Marcel leaned closer to me. Even if Tessa escapes with the evidence, it might not be enough, he warned. Graham is convincing. He'll have explanations ready for any accusation. What are you suggesting? Marcel's eyes took on a calculating gleam I'd never seen during his pastry demonstrations. We need to catch them in the act. Not just with evidence of preparation, but with the actual fraudulent food being served to officials. He was right. Documentation could be disputed, explanations crafted. But if the health commissioner himself was served mislabeled food in front of witnesses... Eliza, I said, turning to the journalist who was coordinating with her camera crew. How quickly can you get to the gala? 20 minutes with traffic. Why? Because we're not just going to reveal what they're planning to do, I replied, a plan crystallizing. We're going to catch them in the act of doing it. Danny ended the call with Tessa, her expression grim. Security has locked down the main kitchen exits. She's going to try the delivery door, but she's not sure she can make it without being seen. What about Jordan? I asked, still being questioned. If they search her phone, the evidence that could expose years of deception and potentially dangerous food practices was now in the hands of a server I barely knew, being detained by the very people she was helping to expose. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jordan. Using kitchen phone. They took my cell. Security office. Help. Time seemed to freeze as we processed Jordan's desperate message. Her phone, containing crucial photographic evidence, was now in the hands of Taste Creators Security. We need to get her out, I said, already moving toward the door. And do what? Marcel grabbed my arm. Storm the place? They'll call the police, have us arrested for trespassing. If we do nothing, Jordan takes the fall while Graham serves fraudulent food to state officials. I countered. I can't let that happen. Eliza, who had been quietly making calls, suddenly looked up. My news van will be ready in 10 minutes. Health department contact is meeting us there. That might be too late for Jordan, Danny warned. My phone buzzed again. Tessa made it out? Meeting point? It was Jordan, still using the kitchen phone. Tell her to meet us at the north parking lot, I replied, relief washing over me. At least Tessa had escaped. Can't. Security watching me. Phone access. Only because they think I'm calling for ride. A plan began forming in my mind. Risky. Potentially disastrous. But our only option. I texted back. Keep stalling. Help coming. To the group, I said, we need a distraction. Something big enough to pull security away from Jordan. Like what? Marcel asked. Like a health emergency in the kitchen right before the governor arrives. I replied grimly. Understanding dawned on their faces. Danny was already nodding. The fire alarm would evacuate everyone. Too broad, I countered. We need something specific to the kitchen that would force them to release Jordan to deal with it. Ash, who had been quietly analyzing the venue layout, spoke up. The water main. It runs through the security office to the kitchen. If there was a burst pipe, how would we manage that from outside? Marcel asked skeptically. Eliza interrupted. We don't need an actual emergency. We just need them to believe there's one. She held up her press badge. Official media arriving early for the governor. While I'm getting the official tour from whoever's in charge, my cameraman can create enough confusion to get Jordan out. It wasn't perfect, but it was all we had. As we piled into cars to head for the venue, I texted Tessa to confirm her location. No response. The knot in my stomach tightened. 20 minutes later, we parked across from the gleaming event center where the governor's charity gala was being set up. Black-tied waitstaff hurried through the main entrance carrying trays of champagne flutes. A red carpet stretched from the curb to the door, still empty of guests who would arrive in the next hour. Eliza straightened her blazer and checked her reflection in the car window. Remember, my job is to distract Graham. Marcel, you handle the kitchen staff. Linnea, you and Danny focus on getting Jordan out. What about me? Ash asked. You're our lookout, I told her. If anything goes wrong, you call Eliza's cameraman to abort. As Eliza strode confidently toward the main entrance, press credentials prominently displayed, the rest of us circled around to the service entrance. Through a side window, I could see kitchen staff in frantic pre-service motion. Graham moved among them, checking plates, his expression severe. There, Danny whispered, pointing to a door marked security at the end of a short hallway. My phone buzzed with a message from Eliza. In position. Graham giving tour. Go now. Marcel pushed through the service entrance first, his pastry chef whites still commanding enough respect that no one immediately questioned his presence. Danny and I followed, keeping our heads down. The kitchen was chaotic. Servers rushing, line cooks calling orders, Graham's voice rising above it all, as he proudly showed Eliza their operation. I kept my back to him, moving purposefully toward the security office. Through the small window in the door, I could see Jordan sitting in a chair, a security guard scrolling through her phone. My heart raced. Any minute, he might find the incriminating photos. Marcel gave us a nod, and then deliberately knocked over a tray of appetizers near the main kitchen station. What is this? He shouted, his voice carrying across the kitchen. These crab cakes are stone cold. Who's responsible? All eyes turned toward the commotion, including the security guards. In that moment of distraction, Danny slipped into the office. Fire in Prep Station 3, she yelled, poking her head back out seconds later. We need everyone now. The guard hesitated, looking between Jordan and the kitchen where staff were now rushing toward Marcel's staged chaos. Go! I heard Danny urge him. I'll watch her. The moment he left, I slipped into the office. Jordan's eyes widened in recognition. Where's your phone? I asked urgently. Top drawer? She replied, nodding toward the desk. I yanked it open, grabbing the phone just as shouts from the kitchen grew louder. Marcel had escalated his distraction, now arguing loudly with Graham about food temperatures, while Eliza recorded every word. We need to go, I told Jordan. Now. We slipped out through a back hallway, Danny following close behind. Through the kitchen windows, I caught a glimpse of Graham's face turning from confusion to rage as he spotted Marcel, a chef he'd fired years ago, standing in his kitchen. Outside, we sprinted to the parking lot where Ash waited with the car running. Tessa, I asked breathlessly as we piled in. No sign of her, Ash replied, and no response to texts. Jordan unlocked her phone with trembling fingers, pulling up the photo gallery. It's all here, she said, relief evident in her voice. Everything Tessa and I documented. The mislabeled salmon packages, the altered invoices, even screenshots of work schedules showing how they cycle through chefs before bonus periods. I texted Eliza. We got it. Evidence secure. Her reply came immediately. Health inspector already here. Bring it now. We drove around to the main entrance where Eliza stood with her cameraman and a stern-looking woman holding a clipboard, the health inspector who'd arrived for Eliza's anonymous tip. This is Regina Moss, Eliza introduced us. Senior health inspector. She's very interested in what you've found. As Jordan presented her evidence, Regina's expression darkened. Mislabeling allergens is a serious violation, she said, swiping through the photos. And this farmed salmon being sold as wild-caught? That's consumer fraud. The governor and health commissioner will be served this food in less than an hour, I pointed out. Regina straightened her jacket. Not if I have anything to say about it. What happened next unfolded like a scene from a movie. Regina, flanked by two assistant inspectors who had just arrived, marched through the main doors with Eliza's news camera rolling behind them. We followed at a distance, watching as they headed straight for the kitchen. Graham's face when he saw Regina enter his domain shifted from professional charm to barely concealed panic. Inspector Moss, we've already completed our pre-event walkthrough. This is a follow-up inspection, Regina replied coolly. We've received concerning information about tonight's menu. As Regina began her inspection, methodically checking labels against inventory and questioning staff, Graham's gaze swept the room, landing on our group, watching from the doorway. His eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed in fury when he saw me. You, he seethed, starting toward me. You're behind this. Before he could reach us, Regina called out, Mr. Graham, please explain why this farmed Atlantic salmon packaging is in your refrigerator when your menu lists wild-caught Copper River salmon? The kitchen fell silent. Every staff member froze, watching as Graham fumbled for an explanation. That's a mistake. We received a mixed shipment. A mistake? Regina pointed to a stack of altered labels on a prep table. These pre-printed labels telling a different story suggest otherwise. As Graham struggled to contain the situation, a commotion at the service entrance drew everyone's attention. Tessa stumbled in, clutching a laptop. I have everything, she announced, her voice carrying across the now silent kitchen. The entire system. How they track which employees to fire before bonus periods. How they substitute ingredients while charging premium prices. She set the laptop down in front of Regina. This spreadsheet shows every chef they've cycled through over the past 5 years. And this folder contains altered invoices going back 3 years. Graham lunged for the computer, but one of Regina's assistants stepped between them. That's private company property, he protested. It's evidence, Regina corrected him. Eliza's cameraman captured everything. Graham's growing desperation. Regina's methodical documentation of violations. The staff's shocked expressions as years of deception unraveled before their eyes. Within 20 minutes, Regina had seen enough. I'm shutting down this operation, effective immediately. This facility will not be serving food tonight or any night until a complete investigation is conducted. Graham's face had gone ashen. You can't do this. The governor will be here in 30 minutes. The governor will be particularly interested to know he was about to be served mislabeled food, Regina replied. As will the health commissioner. As Regina made calls to officially close the venue, Eliza approached me with her microphone. Chef Parker, as the former head chef who was terminated right before your profit sharing would have vested, how do you feel seeing these violations exposed? I looked directly into the camera, years of suppressed emotion rising to the surface. This isn't about me. It's about every chef who was discarded to pad profit margins. It's about every guest who trusted this company with their health and safety. Some things matter more than money. Integrity in the kitchen is one of them. The news segment aired that night, leading with footage of health inspectors shutting down the governor's gala just minutes before guests were scheduled to arrive. By morning, Taste Creators' reputation was in tatters. Their phone lines were flooded with calls from concerned past clients and canceled future bookings. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected call from the governor's office. "Miss Parker? This is Andrea from Governor Hollister's staff. We were impressed with your commitment to food safety standards, and we'd like to discuss an opportunity." The opportunity, as it turned out, was catering the rescheduled charity gala. The governor had been following the story and wanted to make a statement about supporting ethical business practices. I said yes immediately, then called Marcel, Danny, Jordan, Ash, and Tessa. "How would you all feel about working together again? I have our first client." We served the governor's gala in a rented commercial kitchen, using quality ingredients exactly as advertised on our carefully crafted menu. The event was a resounding success, with multiple guests requesting our information for future events. As we cleaned up that night, exhausted but exhilarated, Tessa approached me. "I never properly apologized," she said quietly, "for taking your position, for not speaking up when they fired you. You made it right in the end," I assured her. "That's what matters." Marcel appeared at my side, champagne bottle in hand. "A toast," he declared, pouring glasses for everyone, to second chances. "And to karma," added Jordan with a grin. I raised my glass, looking around at these people who had transformed from strangers united by shared injustice into something resembling a family, to new beginnings. 2 months later, we signed the lease on our own commercial kitchen space. 6 months after that, we were booked solid, with a waiting list. We called our company Second Course, a name that made us smile each time we saw it on our chef coats. Our business model was simple but revolutionary in our industry. Profit, sharing for all staff from day one, transparent ingredient sourcing, and a zero-tolerance policy for cutting corners. On the 1-year anniversary of the night Taste Creators was shut down, I received an email notification. Graham's trial for consumer fraud and labor violations was scheduled to begin next month. The email included a witness list with my name at the top. Some might call what happened that night at the gala revenge. I prefer to think of it as justice, not just for me, but for every chef whose passion and talent were exploited by people who saw food only as a path to profit. If you've ever stood up against workplace injustice or had to rebuild after being unfairly pushed out, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. This channel is dedicated to sharing real experiences that remind us we're never as alone as we might feel in our darkest moments. Like and subscribe if you want more stories about professional comebacks and the sweet taste of justice served properly, not cold, but at precisely the right temperature.